The tale begins with a group of male students walking on the street after school when two blonde guys stop them. Students point out how the stranger has intentionally stopped them on the road, but the accusation doesn't faze the blonde boys, as they smugly ask if it is a surprise to see guys like that at Chidori High. They explain that a friend had a run-in with the group, so they're here to handle it for him. The students don't reply to them and just say how their friend Rintaro is late today. Just when the blonde guys start to question this Rintaro person, a tall, scary-looking guy comes there and asks if there is an issue, and if that is the case, they should say sorry. His aura is enough to scare away the blonde guys, and before he can even complete his sentence, the blonde boys run away from there. One of Rintaro's friends is happy that he chased those guys away, but the other is angry at him for randomly fighting with everyone. Seeing his clueless face, his friend explains that those guys were here because of something he did, and then asks what happened with their friend. His anger does not faze Rintaro, who casually replies that he heard a couple fighting last night and went to check when the girl slapped her boyfriend, but instead of welcoming his help, the guy ran away from there. His friends are surprised at the guy running away abruptly, but they also understand his reaction because no one wants to interact with this scary-looking Rintaro. Without arguing, he simply agrees with them, and their conversation stops when they spot two girls from Kikyo High walking toward them. The girls rush past them without even sparing a glance toward their sides. One of Rintaro's friends stops them, wanting to return the handkerchief a girl dropped, but the girl just rudely tells him to get rid of it, saying she will never use it again now. As the girls walk inside the school, the boys discuss how much they hate them, but the one who got insulted is positive that they couldn't handle his charming personality. Rintaro falls a few steps behind his friend as he gazes at the school building opposite them, thinking about how the noble girls would never want to interact with idiots like them. Kikyo High School, an all-girls private academy, is a respectable historic institution that is completely disconnected from the Chidori Public, a lower-ranked school for all boys, and is mostly filled with a bunch of idiots. Students from Kikyo High have a strong dislike for Chidori, and even though these schools are opposite to each other, Rintaro has never seen even a glimpse of their classrooms. Kikyo's students only interact with Chidori boys in dire situations, but it doesn't matter because they will never cross paths after graduation. Rintaro comes out of his imaginary comparison between the two schools when one of his friends calls him and asks if he will join them after school for karaoke. Rintaro refuses to go with them and denies any allegation of having a girlfriend when his friends ask if this is the reason he is ditching them. As soon as he comes back from school, Rintaro gets scolded for being late, to which he argues that it is not his fault that the distance from his school is long and there was rain on his way back. He then asks why they asked him for help since he is not a very nice person. The girl working in the kitchen replies that they don't need many people because there is one customer here right now and they are short-staffed, so that is why they called him, the only available person to help them. Rintaro doesn't argue further and he realizes how he is wearing this uniform after a long time. He is currently at the bakery his family owns, and sometimes they ask for his help, but he never revealed this to his friends. Just then, he recalls how the worker said they had one customer and looked out to find a young girl sitting there, stuffing her mouth with food. He keeps staring at her unintentionally, and when the girl spots him, she chokes on her food. Stunned, he quickly apologizes to her, asking if he is okay, and rushes to give her water. Once the girl's coughing fit calms down a little, she tries to apologize to him, but he dismisses her, saying she did nothing. The girl nervously looks at the table, while Rintaro just stares at her, surprised at how much she can eat while being as small as a middle schooler. Stuttering a little, the girl thanks him for the food and then runs out of the cafe without saying any other word. He can't believe that he caused the girl to run away and goes back to the kitchen, where the lady tells him that the customer was Waigiri-san. She explains that Waigiri comes a few times a month and suggests that Rintaro should get introduced to her, but then guesses that something happened. A little embarrassed, he tells her how Waigiri ran away by just looking at him and then apologizes for possibly making them lose a customer. She scolds him for blaming himself for no reason and with a menacing glare reminds him that just one cake is all it takes to win Waigiri back as a customer. Despite her comforting words, Rintaro feels guilty even the next day in school and is thinking about finding the middle school around so he can apologize. His friends again drag him out of his thoughts, asking if he is not happy to see them, but Rintaro assures them it is not the case, and then he leaves, saying that he will get lunch alone today. Rintaro walks out of the class alone, worried that he might have given Waigiri a traumatic experience. A few days later, he is reading a book sitting in his bed when the door to his room bursts open as his mother rushes inside, announcing that Waigiri is back and wants to chat with him. Rintaro is shocked to hear that, and even after seeing Waigiri in front of his eyes, he finds it hard to believe that she actually came back. He tries to discuss the incident from their last meeting, but Waigiri interrupts him quickly and instead asks to treat him to something. Rintaro is still shocked as they both sit at a table, finding it weird how Waigiri is treating him to their own store's cake. Waigiri apologizes to him for leaving the cafe abruptly the other day and says that this cake is her apology. Rintaro argues that he should be the one apologizing and pushes the cake toward her instead. Waigiri tries to protest at first, but when Rintaro expresses how delicious the cake is, she can't resist further. As soon as he sees her devouring cake, Rintaro's mind jumps to the conclusion that she must be a big fan of eating. He's surprised when she remarks about how odd it must be to witness someone surrounded by an array of plates all to themselves. With his inability to lie, he is unable to hide his curiosity, and Waigiri laughs at his reaction, explaining how she wanted to go home quickly that day. She then formally introduces herself, and after finding his name, she comments on how she now knows his name. Her statement confuses Rintaro, so Waigiri quickly explains that she saw him working here before, but he never noticed her. Hearing that she has seen him before, Rintaro is confused about why she ran away by just taking a look at him. Waigiri instantly clarified that she ran away because she was flustered to see him staring at her like that. Her words are a total shock to Rintaro because people only feel scared when he looks at them. They both become shy about the conversation, and Rintaro quickly changes the topic by offering to walk Waigiri to the station because it is already dark. She asks to buy another cake before leaving and then doesn't accept Rintaro's offer to walk her, saying that she will be fine alone. Before leaving, Waigiri repeats that he didn't make her leave that day, and she never felt afraid of him. After she leaves, Rintaro runs back into his room, flustered at her words because, since childhood, he has been told how scary he looks. His moan of comfort is interrupted by the continuous knocking on his door. He shouts at them to know what the issue is, and his mother tells him that she found Waigiri's cake lying on the ground outside the shop. He instantly gets worried when she asks if Waigiri has safely returned to her home. Meanwhile, Waigiri is standing in an alley, cornered by the two blonde guys who are harassing her. Rintaro is running around, desperately trying to search for Waigiri, and stops when he hears voices coming from the alley, where the two boys are asking Waigiri why she was with Rintaro. He recognizes the two guys from the other day, but doesn't interrupt the conversation. One of the boys mentions to Waigiri how Rintaro is a very creepy guy, famous for his scary personality even in middle school, and now goes to a school with a bunch of idiots. Rintaro agrees with the boy, saying that his school is bad, but he can't understand if they just came here to talk about how creepy he is. He is thinking about how the guys are right about him being scary, but he is surprised when Waigiri states that they can't believe some random rumors. She continues that they should talk to him, and they will find out how amazing he is. The guys tell her to stop talking about him like that, but she doesn't back down, instead saying how annoying they are. One of the guys replied that she shouldn't talk like that, confessing how they wanted to infuriate Rintaro by using her. They try to force her, but he chooses this moment to interfere and accidentally bumps his head into the wall while pushing them away from her. With blood dripping from his forehead, he looks back at the boys, asking if they fulfilled their wish to infuriate him, and seeing his expression, they run away from there. Waigiri starts panicking at the sight of his blood and tries to wipe it with her handkerchief while apologizing to him for causing this. Rintaro assures that it is fine because he accidentally bumped his head into the wall and apologizes for not stopping the guys early. Waigiri is shocked to hear that he intentionally did this, but he is not fazed and just apologizes for dragging her into this mess. Waigiri tells him not to bow like that, but Rintaro is lost in thoughts about how she defended him in front of those thugs, and he terrified her even though she was so sweet. When he tries to apologize again, Waigiri ignores his statement and instead finds it strange that people get terrified when he is so kind. She gently taps the handkerchief on his wound and with a bright smile, thanks him for saving her. Her gratefulness is a surprise to Rintaro, who is used to people's harsh behavior toward him, but her kind behavior makes him want to experience it again. Thanking him for his help again, Waigiri asks if he is really fine, to which Rintaro replies that it is just a scratch that will be healed in a few days. Before leaving, she suggests eating cake together when she visits the store again, and she assures him that she will get home safely this time. Rintaro arrives at the school early the next day and is feeling very tired because of a sleepless night. His thoughts are still wandering toward Wagiri and when they will get the chance to meet again. His attention is diverted toward the curtains of Keikyo that are closed as usual, but he is shocked when he finds the curtains moving for the first time. Rintaro calms down, thinking that it will never happen, but the next moment, the curtains are yanked open, and he is once again stunned to see Wagiri-san standing there. Without wasting any time, he closes the curtains of his own window while he tries to overcome the shock of Wagiri being a high schooler and attending their rival school. Rintaro's thoughts about his messed-up situation break when his friend groans beside him, complaining about students from Keikyo High looking down at them. His friend Shoei continues that he is tired of the situation because they didn't choose this school on purpose. He is not happy when his other friends remind him that this is the only school he got accepted to. He glances sideways and sees their friends, Saku and Ayato, approaching, Saku being the one to remind them of the harsh reality. Ayato and Shoei continue the discussion about Keikyo's students' behavior and how they even hate Saku, who is usually popular with girls. Saku says that it is not a big deal, but Shoei couldn't get over the situation. Their conversation turns toward Rintaro's injured forehead, and this sends him into a spiral of memories about how scared Wagiri was that day. He had instinctively wrapped himself around Wagiri, but now he is worried that she will also find him creepy. Just then, his friends noticed the closed curtains and asked if he did this because he also couldn't stand looking at Keikyo. Slamming his hands on the table, Rintaro stands up, shouting that he didn't close the curtains because of that. His friends are surprised to see his reaction, so Rintaro quickly clarifies that he just closed the curtains because of excessive light. When his friend argues that it never happened before, Rintaro replies that he just wanted to close them sometime. When his friends go back to their seats, Rintaro again stares at the windows of Keikyo High, thinking about how Wagiri was always so close to him, but she will probably never return to the store because of the hatred Keikyo has for their school. He settles on the thought that it is for the best because nothing good will come out if she is associated with a Chidori student. Just then, Shoei turns around at his desk, asking if he wants to go out with them after school, and Rintaro agrees with the offer after checking that he has no message from his mother. As they are walking out of the school, Rintaro says how he will sing today because he didn't join them the last time. Their conversation is interrupted when Saku points out the huge crowd gathered outside the gate. Parting the crowd, they quickly check what the issue is, and Rintaro is shocked to see Wagiri waiting outside the door. All of the students are trying to understand why a Keikyo student is here. Before Rintaro can recover from his shock, Shoei harshly asks Wagiri what she wants from the Chidori boys. She hesitantly replies that she wants to meet someone. Shoei tries to question her again, but Rintaro intervenes in time and pushes him away from there. Rintaro offers a meek apology to Wagiri-san, but their heart-to-heart is cut short thanks to Shoei's constant whining about not having a girlfriend. Two girls from Keikyo High suddenly appear, scolding Karuko for hanging around the boys' school, unless she wants to catch a case of their dumb antics. The guys are taken aback by more girls joining the fray, but they're not about to be disrespected. Shoei takes the lead once more, demanding an apology like it's nobody's business. Wagiri and Rintaro couldn't do anything except look at each other as the girls dragged her away, not even bothering to reply to Shoei. The boys continue to discuss how rude Keikyo girls are and what the girl possibly wants from a Chidori boy. Rintaro just walks beside them silently, thinking how this was a close call and how his method of acting like he didn't know her worked. But it is hard to believe that she wanted to see him. His friends stop their guessing when Shoei notices Rintaro standing there with a weird look on his face. They are surprised at seeing a new expression on his face, while Rintaro is trying to suppress a small smile, feeling unusually happy. He quickly shakes his head to get rid of happy thoughts, realizing how he is scaring people again and that it is best if he doesn't bump into Wagiri-san again. Later, he is sitting in karaoke with his friends, who remind him that he needs to choose a song. Rintaro picks up the tablet, but his mind is still focused on what happened after school. He is shocked when Saku suddenly asks if something has happened in his life lately. Once he mentions that, his friends also realize how he has been behaving strangely lately, but Saku ignores them and tells Rintaro that they are here for him if he's having any issues. Shoei complains about how he didn't even share how he got injured. Hearing his friends' concern about him, Rintaro is thinking about telling them about Wagiri-san, but he doesn't know what their reaction will be. He can already imagine the things they will say about Keikyo High, so he decides not to tell them anything. Shoei and Ayato easily believe him, encouraging him to share if there is an issue, but Saku is still suspicious of him. They soon get busy singing, and Rintaro takes this opportunity to apologize to Saku for always making him worry. Saku just sighs, saying how Rintaro is always like this, and then holds the mic so he can sing his worries away. When Rintaro returns home that day, he is surprised to see the lights still on in the store when it is already past 7. He enters the store, pointing out how the door is unlocked, but stops in his tracks when Wagiri-san excitedly greets him. His shock to see her there increases when she suddenly bows in front of him and apologizes for causing the scene at school earlier that day. Rintaro quickly dismisses her apology, saying that he wasn't mad about it. Before their conversation can continue, his mother comes out and starts yelling at Rintaro for coming back late because Wagiri was waiting for him. She then turns to Wagiri and asks if she wants to eat the leftover cake. Wagiri attempts to decline, but her stomach lets out a thunderous growl, causing the others to erupt in laughter. Wagiri blushes in humiliation, and once Rintaro finally composes himself, he proposes that they eat together. She happily agrees with him, and soon they are sitting around the table, eating their food. Rintaro's gaze never leaves her face as he notices how happy she looks while eating her food. Wagiri starts the conversation as she asks Rintaro about his friend. Rintaro replies that his friend is alright and asks her why she came to their school. He is shocked when she admits that she wanted to see him and tries to apologize again. But he quickly dismisses the apology. In his excitement, he accidentally blurts out how happy he was to see her and quickly apologizes for saying that because he must look like a creep. When he tells Wagiri to forget what he said, she replies that she wants to remember it, and they both flush red. Rintaro quickly changes the topic, asking her about the cake instead, but they can't avoid the conversation, and he accidentally spills how he thought she would never come back. At Wagiri's question, he explains how it is because of their school's stark differences, and since she attends Keikyo High, he muses that she would never want to see him again because being with him would do her no good. Wagiri honestly tells him that she was excited to find out that he attends Chidori High and abruptly stands up to leave the store. She turns around at the door, saying that everything she said is true, and she thought this would be her chance to get to know him better. Wagiri leaves after that, but Rintaro can't forget her sad face, realizing how he hurt her. His guilt increases when he notices that she hasn't finished her cake, even though she loves it. Suddenly, his mother comes out of the kitchen to ask him about Wagiri, but he stumbles back, seeing his stoic face. She mumbles how a skeleton can't be her son, and then asks him to go downstairs. Once they are in the house, Rintaro tells his mother what happened, and in reply, she hits him on the forehead. While he is rolling on the ground in pain, his mother advises him to follow Wagiri so she can be home safely. Rintaro ignores her order and mumbles how he can't understand why Wagiri was pleased to meet him. His mother is fed up with his cluelessness, as he endlessly wonders why Wagiri would want to meet him when she's from Keikyo. His mom smugly reminds him that he's just like everyone else who judges him based on his appearance. He used to hate being felt that way, but now all he can talk about is Keikyo High. His mother questions whether Wagiri's attitude changed once she found out about his school, and whether he saw her in a new light. Her words bring back memories of his own past judgments, making him realize he's been treating Wagiri the same way he used to be treated. In a moment of self-realization, he gives himself a well-deserved punch, shocking his mother, who rushes to wipe his blood. The next morning, he stands outside the Keikyo High to wait for Wagiri, who shows up soon after him. She is worried to see his wounded face, but he ignores her comments and instead says that he came early, hoping that he will get to meet her. Rintaro then suddenly apologizes for hurting her yesterday. Wagiri is slightly confused to hear that, so he explains how she looked very sad while leaving the store. Listening to him, she suddenly slumps down on the ground, not being able to show her face due to embarrassment, and says that he has nothing to do with her sad face. She realizes how her leaving the store abruptly made things worse and apologizes for making him feel guilty again. Rintaro kneels in front of her, saying that she doesn't have to apologize, but Wagiri doesn't raise her face and comments on how gentle he is. Rintaro realizes he's just mirroring her behavior, but instead of admitting it, he says the boys at his school always badmouth Keikyo, so he naturally does too. He never tried to think rationally about the matter, but he couldn't bear the thought of someone being rude to her. Even though he dislikes it, he knows that if she is associated with him, she will face more problems. He proceeds to frantically declare that he has no intention of letting her slip from his memory. Blaming his school-related stress for his outburst, He confesses that deep down he was overjoyed to see her. They both stay silent for a moment after his confession, and then Waigiri stands up, looking better and happier than before. She continues that they are just two different people, so it doesn't matter what school they attend. She just wants to know him better. After his early morning meeting with Waigiri, Rintaro goes to his classroom and is relieved to see that no other student is here yet. Earlier he had also apologized to Waigiri-san for closing the curtains so suddenly, but she assured him that it was not a big deal. Recalling that, he decides to open the curtain because no one will be at school this early. Waigiri seems to have the same thought, and as they wave at each other through windows, Rintaro admits that he also wants to get to know her. He never thought he could be part of the world that he could see from his window, but now it doesn't seem like such a far-fetched idea. Later, he is sitting in the class, using a notebook to fan himself as Shoei complains about the hot weather. He asks Rintaro to turn on the AC in the staff room, but he refuses to move from his spot. Groaning, Shoei says that they should do something fun, like a sports day, and perks up when he remembers that it happens every year in May. Shoei is already excited as he says they are going to have a blast, but their happiness crashes when the teacher informs them that they can't participate in that. Later, when Saku comes to their desk and asks them about the AC, Shohei tells him how they have to take the makeup exams for their midterms. He is surprised to hear that and says that the management might ignore it with time as they do everywhere, but Shoei mumbles that it is not the case this time. Rintaro is silently listening to their conversation and recalls their earlier encounter with the teacher. He told them that second years are very careless, so their principal asks everyone to do their best from now on and says that any students who fail will take makeup instead of participating in the sports day. Shikata-sensei sighs and says he was going to tell them anyway. They have the worst grades in the class. Shoei tries to protest against the decision but admits that they are not going to pass when the teacher asks about it. Shoei is persistent that they need some kind of favor, so Shikata agrees to treat them to ice cream if they win the championship on sports day. After knowing the full story, Saku and their other friends just stare at Shoei, who just now realizes the seriousness of the situation. He is aware that he can't study to save his life and almost begs Saku to help him, but he refuses, saying that he did that last year and his own grades dropped. Yurita asks Rintaro about his situation but refuses to help when Rintaro mentions that he also needs assistance. Shoei gets offended by the continued rejection from their friends and shouts that they don't need anyone's help. As they continue to bicker among themselves, Rintaro focuses on his phone, where he gets a text from his mother asking him to invite Waigiri-san to the store because they are having a sale. He figures that today is the monthly sale day at the store and looks towards the closed curtains of Kaikyo, remembering how Waigiri hadn't visited the store recently. His mother has told him that she visits the store a few times a month and admits that she doesn't need to be rich just because she goes to Kaikyo High. Rintaro writes a message to invite her to the store and ponders about it for a while before finally sending it. The whole day he keeps waiting for a reply, and only after school does he realize that phones might not be allowed at Kaikyo. He is startled when his phone suddenly rings, and he quickly looks to find a message from Waigiri, who has said that she is busy and can't come to the store. Even though he knows that she might have some stuff to do, he is still disappointed by her answer. His thoughts are interrupted when Shoei slams his hands on his table, announcing that they are going to the library. As soon as they reach the library, Shoei complains about the broken AC, but he is determined to show their friends that they don't need any help. Rintaro tries to stop him from being so stubborn, but Shoei ignores him and goes to study. His determination didn't last long, as he couldn't understand anything written in the books. Rintaro asks if they should go back to Natsuzawa, saying that they both know that they can't do this. He reminds Shoei how Saku helped them last year too, in reply to which his friend says they still failed. When Shoei still doesn't raise his head from the desk, Rintaro says that they will still eat the ice cream with their friends on sports day because Saku is also very excited about that. Shoei is surprised to hear those words from his friend, but he agrees to apologize to Saku right now and declares that he will drag them to the library. Before leaving, he says that he is also very excited about sports day and that he can't do it without Rintaro by his side. Rintaro is sitting alone at the table when he notices some girls searching for a table and stands up to give them the place. They are a little scared to see him, but they are surprised at how he gave them a place and left before they could say thank you. Holding the books in his hand, Rintaro walks around searching for a bench and thinks about informing Shoei Usami that they need a new table. He stops in his tracks when he hears a familiar voice and carefully peeks around the book racks to find Waigiri sitting there with a friend, both laughing at something in their notebook. Rintaro quickly ducks behind the racks when the girls turn around, thinking about how Wagiri must be studying hard for her upcoming exams. Once the girls turn back toward their books, he slowly peeks again and is stunned to see Wagiri doodling in her notebook. This new side of Wagiri is surprising to him, and seeing how relaxed she is, he figures that this must be her real personality. Rintaro continues to eavesdrop on the girls and listens to Wagiri's friend say that it must be difficult for her to always stay at the top of the class. Haruko replies that it is just a target she set for herself and is not a big deal, but her friend is still impressed by how hardworking she is. As Rintaro walks away, he reflects on Wagiri's intelligence, even by Kikyo's standards, while seeing himself as just another fool from Chidori High. Frustrated after failing to solve the question again, he lies on a bench, recalling how Natsuzawa helped him last year, only for him to still fail. Passing now feels impossible. The thought of giving up crosses his mind, but Shoei's words linger. Before he can dwell on it, Wagiri suddenly appears, asking if he's sleeping there. He jolts upright, stumbling over his words, insisting he just came to the library and hadn't seen her in a while. Ignoring his words, she mentions how she thought it was him in the back, so she came here to confirm and also felt hungry, so she decided to get something to eat. She sits on the bench beside him and asks if he is preparing for the exams. Rintaro replies that he is trying to study, but it looks like he will fail again because he couldn't solve any questions from the book. Wagiri takes a look at his book and then suggests another method he can use to solve the question. Rintaro is stunned when he solves the question on his first try, but he knows this will not work in an actual exam. Wagiri assures him that he will be fine if he practices a lot, and he will start to feel confident soon. She apologizes for turning down his offer to visit the store, explaining that she hopes to go during the next monthly sale. She had to refuse this time because she was preparing for a test, but more importantly, she'd been spending too much of her savings on food. Rintaro is surprised to learn she pays for it herself, and when she sees his reaction, she clarifies that it's money from her part-time job. Shocked, he struggles to believe that a popular girl like her even works. Wagiri chuckles, explaining that while Kikyo High is a school for noble girls, she's there on a scholarship and has to maintain top grades to stay. Cheerfully, she adds that she's held the highest rank in her class because of it. Once again, Rintaro is taken aback. She admits that constant tests leave her sleep-deprived, but as a non-elite student in a prestigious school, she has to prove she's no less than anyone else. Despite her efforts, she still feels like an outsider. When Rintaro asks why she puts herself through this, she tells him she barely convinced her father to let her attend Kikyo High. She can't let him down. But beyond that, keeping the top rank is also a matter of pride. Hearing all this, Rintaro realizes he had made assumptions about Wagiri, just like how others made assumptions about him, something he always hated. He convinces himself that he's turned over a new leaf and turns to Wagiri for some much-needed study help, determined not to flunk this time around. He whispers his newfound dedication to her, pledging to be her study buddy whenever she's available. Just as he's about to bring up her busy schedule, she surprises him by offering up her own grub, promising to reach out when she's free. They dive back into exam chat, unaware of a girl on a mission to find Wagiri, who's been MIA since her quick trip to the corner store. As soon as the girl is near them, she asks Haruko about the boy with whom she is talking. Rintaro is stunned to see her appearance because he has never seen someone with silver hair in real life and thinks she looks cool, but when she glares at him, he realizes how scary she is. The girl then addresses him, guessing correctly that he is from Chidori High, and once Rintaro confirms that, she adds that he doesn't need to meet with Haruko after today. Rintaro is intimidated by her sharp stare as the girl states that she doesn't want Wagiri to be near anyone from Chidori High. Wagiri tries to talk to her friend, Subaru, who is determined to protect her in any case. Wagiri tries to explain the situation, but just then Rintaro's friends make an appearance, talking about how he couldn't keep a table for them. They are surprised to notice the girls from Kikyo, while Subaru is also not happy to see more boys from Chidori High. Rintaro buries his face in his hands as his friends ask the girls why they are talking to Rinataro because he will never associate with students of Kaikyo. Subaru ignores them and says to Wagiri that they should leave instead of talking to these idiots. Shoei is ready to fight for calling them fools, but he just then realizes how he saw the girl somewhere. As he leans closer to look better at her, Rintaro shoves him back while Subaru shouts at him to stay away. Realizing what he had done, Rintaro quickly apologizes for his actions while thinking about how his body moved on its own, and he can't understand his emotions at Shoei getting a little close to Waigiri. Subaru repeats that she doesn't want Karuko to associate with them, and this causes another argument, with Shoei saying that they act almighty and great but didn't answer his question yet. Subaru angrily asks if they are calling Waigiri stupid, to which Saka replies, "What will happen if this is what he is doing?" He then attacks her silver hair, saying that this is something that will happen at Keikyo and that she shouldn't be so proud because she might get harmed by it. His words shock everyone around him, and Rintaro finally breaks his silence, first scolding his friend for saying such a thing, and then reminding him who Waigiri is, the girl who was outside their school the other day. Shoei finally recognizes her as Rintaro explains that he approached the girls because he wanted to apologize for scaring her the other day, and they weren't the ones who came here first. When his friend points out that he was the one who scared her, Shoei quickly apologizes and says that he got a little angry but didn't mean to say those things. He continues to say that he has no right to act like that just because they go to Keikyo High and try to apologize again. But to his surprise, Waigiri suddenly bows in front of him, saying that she is the one who should be sorry. The boys are shocked at seeing someone from Keikyo High bowing in front of them, as Waigiri apologizes for creating a mess and disturbing everyone at Chidori High. Subaru tries to stop her, but Waigiri instead asks her to apologize too. They all wait in anticipation of Subaru's reaction, but she just leaves from there, and Waigiri instantly follows her friend. When the boys are left alone, Yurita comments that he doesn't know what to think of Keikyo anymore, and Usami seconds his opinion, talking about how quickly the girls changed their attitude. He changes the topic, saying that there is one person who still needs to apologize. Saku instantly turns his head, knowing that they are talking about him, but when they tease him for standing up for them, he shouts that they were being insulted. Laughing a little, Yurita informs Rintaro that they have already solved their issues, and they all go back to discuss studying. Rintaro slowly follows his friends, his mind still trying to figure out why Subaru looked at him before leaving. On the other side of the library, Waigiri acknowledges Subaru's dislike for boys, but finds her behavior extreme. Subaru snaps that all boys are the same and questions why Karuko even interacts with them. She brings up the gate incident, assuring Waigiri she has nothing to apologize for. Before Waigiri can respond, Subaru continues ranting about how boys, especially those from Chidori High, are heartless. Remembering Saku's harsh words, she changes the subject and asks about Rintaro. Waigiri simply replies that he's kind and his friends aren't so bad. Instead of arguing, Subaru shifts the topic to the sweets Waigiri is holding, and they resume studying. Meanwhile, Rintaro struggles with a problem, frustrated that he keeps getting it wrong despite Saku's explanations. As he scans the page, he stumbles upon the question Waigiri taught him, which makes him wonder if they should still study together after the chaos of their last meeting. Just then, Waigiri messages him, asking if they can talk. Confused but curious, he agrees. When he picks up, she greets him cheerfully, but he immediately senses something off in her voice. When he asks what's wrong, Waigiri explains that she called to apologize for her friend's behavior at the library, insisting that her friend is actually a good person. Rintaro assures her he wasn't judging while recalling Subaru's intensity, but chooses not to mention it, instead apologizing for his friends. Waigiri admits she'd be upset too if someone insulted her, then reveals the real reason for her call. She feels guilty that he had to lie because of her. She chuckles when Rintaro says that he has already forgotten that, and says how nice he is. She continues that he is very brave for protecting her like that, and she thanks him for that. Her words come as a surprise to him because no one has ever called him brave. Rintaro realizes how things have been strange recently because he can't stop thinking about Waigiri and feels strangely happy about it. He comes out of his thoughts when Waigiri almost yells from the other side of the phone. She is relieved to know that he didn't give up and recalls how they talked about studying together. Rintaro gets attentive to hear that as Waigiri adds that they have been very friendly with each other recently, and she will try to tone it down. Rintaro is confused about why she wants to be careful and asks her about it. Waigiri is a little startled by his tone and quickly explains that she is just a customer at his store and apologizes for saying it like that. She is relieved when Rintaro says that he just wanted to know and asks him if he is free on Saturday. Rintaro is not happy to know that he is just an ordinary guy for Waigiri, whom she talks to at the store, and even though he didn't pay much attention to how friendly they are, he suddenly feels very distant. He had thought that they had become good friends, but he doesn't mention any of his concerns and just agrees to meet on Saturday. They agreed to meet at Asagi Station, and Rintaro is curious about how Waigiri is feeling about this call. When Waigiri goes to cut the call, he can't control himself anymore and tells her not to worry about it because he doesn't want to change anything between them. Waigiri is still concerned about it, but when Rintaro assures her that he has no issue, she agrees to not worry about it and then cuts the call. After the call, Rintaro lies in bed, frustrated for speaking without thinking yet curious about Waigiri's true feelings. Embarrassed at first, he slowly calms down, realizing he'd like to see her real self. Meanwhile, Waigiri is flustered, unsure if he meant his words or was just being kind. She doesn't know if he noticed her smiling the whole time, but she's already excited for Saturday. On Saturday, Rintaro woke up early in the morning. It has been a while since they agreed to study together, and the day has finally arrived when he will meet with Waigiri. As usual, he gets weird comments while traveling by bus, but his mind is only focused on Waigiri and how they are meeting on the weekend. He is concerned about his clothes, hoping that they don't look weird because this is one of the few things he has to wear. The view he has seen every day is looking more pleasant today, and once he finally reaches his destination, he is worried that he came too early. To his shock, Waigiri is already waiting for him, looking very different by the way she is dressed up. Once he overcomes his surprise, he rushes toward her, apologizing for being late, but Waigiri says that it is not his fault because she came too early. Chuckling slightly, Waigiri says that she is a little slow at taking things normal, and then admits that she is also very nervous today. Seeing his flushed face, Waigiri says that he is also very nervous, but he doesn't comment on that and just asks where they should go to study. Waigiri replies that she knows a place and then takes them to a nearby cafe. She is already enjoying her food, as she explains that they can easily study here, and the food is also very delicious. When he doesn't say anything in reply, Waigiri points out that his goodwill gets cold. He finally focuses on his food, just now remembering that Waigiri is a food lover and that she looks like she is lost in her own world. Once they are done eating, Waigiri instantly gets into teacher mode and asks him to get ready for work. She first asks him if he needs to focus on math, to which Rintaro hesitantly replies that he thinks he will do well on other subjects. She is amused by his answer, and she encourages him to approach her if he needs help. Focused on his book, Rintaro points out the question he needs to understand. Waigiri leans closer to take a look, and once their eyes meet, they are both startled at their closeness and instantly jerk back. Waigiri quickly apologizes to him, to which Rintaro replies that it is no big deal. They then focus on the question, but their hearts are still going crazy over the incident. After studying for a while, she asks him why he said he really wanted to pass this year. Rintaro tells her how he can't participate in sports day if he fails midterms and will have to take extra classes, but he doesn't want to be separated from his friends. He is feeling embarrassed about his reason, but Waigiri assures him that it is great that he wants to enjoy the sports day with his friends. Rintaro is thinking about how sweet she is and suddenly chokes on his drink when Waigiri comments that he really loves his friends. Waigiri offers him a handkerchief in reply, and Rintaro thanks her while expressing his shock at the word love, but admits that it is kind of true. She replies that she also loves her friends because they are very kind, especially Subaru, whom she has known since her childhood. She explains how people misunderstand Subaru's kindness, but she just had a lot of bad experiences with boys and has trouble trusting them now. She adds how he didn't treat her friend differently, which is really great, and she thanks him for that. Rintaro is surprised by her words, and while Waigiri goes back to studying, he is stunned at the happiness he is feeling again. As they stroll back from their marathon study sesh, Rintaro can't help but moan about the eternity they spent glued to their seats. Waigiri replies that resting is also important for studying and gives him a notebook. Seeing his confused expressions, she says that he mentioned he has a hard time with other subjects, so she made a notebook of tips and tricks to help him in his tests. Rintaro is very embarrassed at her efforts because she also has to study, but Waigiri assures him that it is not an issue and they will do this together. She adds that she wants him to enjoy the sports day with his friends and wants to hear all the stories after that. Realizing that she might miss her train, she leaves after wishing him luck for his midterms. Rintaro is happy at how much she helped him and is planning to study on his way back, but suddenly someone yanks him back by his collar. He looks back to find Subaru standing there, and she sharply asks if he has time because she wants to discuss something right now. Sitting in the cafe across from Subaru, Rintaro is still trying to understand what is happening. He has followed Subaru as per her wish, But ever since they came, she hasn't spoken a word, which is making him more nervous. Subaru finally decides to break her silence and asks if he is dating Karuko. At her sudden question, Rintaro accidentally spills the hot coffee on his hands, attracting the attention of the nearby waitress. He is surprised when Subaru offers him a handkerchief because he thought she hated him, but she is acting strange. Subaru takes the lead once more, inquiring about his name before graciously presenting herself as Karuko's classmate. After learning her full name, Rintaro recalls how the girls were talking about her the other day, and he is happy that she was absent that day, or else he would have been dead. He is startled when Subaru repeats her question about him dating Wagiri, and he explains that he is not dating her. She further asks him what his relationship with Wagiri is, and even after thinking about it, he can't come up with a proper answer. When he doesn't say anything in reply, Subaru asks if he knows Wagiri for a short time because this will make things easier. Rintaro is still confused about all this and is shocked when Subaru suddenly says that he shouldn't meet with Wagiri anymore. Rintaro asks if she is saying this because he attends Chidori High, and when Subaru confirms that, he continues that the rivalry between schools doesn't affect his interaction with Wagiri. Subaru almost shouts that she is aware of that, and seeing her solemn expression makes Rintaro realize that she might be a nice person. Subaru continues to say that she said very bad things about his friend that day at the library, and is very sorry for that. She explains that she has an issue with Chidori High and boys in general, and when she saw Wagiri, she freaked out. When Rintaro asks why she felt that way, Subaru explains that if someone from Keikyo saw Wagiri with him, they would make Wagiri's life a living hell. According to her, the teachers of Keikyo High despise the Chider more, and if they knew that a scholarship student was meeting with him, she was not sure what they would do to Wagiri. Rintaro is shocked to hear the ridiculous statement, but he knows everything is possible when it comes to Keikyo. He then asks Subaru why she cares so much about Wagiri, but before she can reply, a child falls to the ground right beside their table. Subaru rushes to help him and gives him the figurine toy that has fallen to the ground. The young kid is amazed by her hair and says how cool she looks. Just then his mother comes there and takes him away, while Subaru turns toward Rintaro, telling him how Wagiri passed the same comments when they first met. Subaru tells him how in her childhood, kids used to make fun of her hair, and she could only cry in return. Rintaro finally understands her hatred for the boys as Subaru continues that Wagiri was the person who saved her, and she always found her so beautiful. The day Wagiri stood up for her, she was shining like a sun, and she will always remember that day. With tear-filled eyes, Subaru says that Wagiri was her hero and they have never been apart since that day. Rintaro replies that Wagiri has told him about that, but his statement just triggers Subaru, who shouts that he doesn't know anything about Wagiri. Subaru continues that she was the one who worked hard for Wagiri and how many difficulties she had to overcome to study at Keikyo. This is the reason she can't let Wagiri's sacrifices go to waste right in front of her eyes. Wagiri has done so much for her, and this might drive her away from Subaru, but she is ready to face any consequence to save Wagiri's happiness. She again requested that Rintaro not meet with Wagiri again. Her words remind him of all the times he has to face the harsh words of other people and how she said that he knows nothing about Wagiri. As he recalls Wagiri's kind words about wanting to know her better, he politely refuses to stay away from Karuko. Subaru doesn't argue further because she has already expected him to say this and just apologizes to him. Rintaro is sitting in the train on his way back home while his mind is still swirling around what Hoshina-san said about Wagiri facing difficulties if someone finds out that she meets with him. He groans in frustration at not being able to focus on his books, scaring the girls sitting beside him. In his meeting with Subaru, he has learned a lot about her and thinks that she is a nice person, just like Wagiri said, but it still surprises him that she cares so much about someone. He doesn't remember anyone doing anything like this for him. He comes out of his thoughts when two young girls approach him and ask if the seat is free. Thinking that they want the seats, he gets up from there and is about to move away when the girls hesitantly thank him. One of the girls says how he emptied the table for them at the library and asks if he remembers that. Rintaro asks why they are talking about that, to which the girls thank him, saying that they couldn't do that earlier. They are almost shivering because of the fear and are surprised when Rintaro politely asks if they have made any improvements. The girls quickly reply that he is right and then ask if he wants them to do anything. Rintaro just smiles a little, saying that he is happy to hear about their progress and then leaves from there. As he leaves, the girls discuss how he is very sweet, even though he is very intimidating. Rintaro stands near the doors of the train, surprised at his own reaction because it is rare that someone thanks him, but he still thought the girls were sweet, even though he was scaring them. For a moment, he thinks about the hot weather, but his mind again diverts toward Waigiri and how she always thanks him. He can clearly imagine her rescuing Hoshina-san from the bullies and is a little worried about Waigiri facing the consequences of meeting him. He doesn't regret his decision to stay away from Waigiri, but it still worries him. A few days later, Rintaro is sitting in the class with his friends as their teacher prepares to return their midterm grades. The teacher calls both Shoei and Rintaro to the front and happily announces to the class that they have actually passed their midterm exams. The whole class starts cheering for them, gossiping about how it is hard to believe that Rintaro got more than 50 marks and how Shoei only passed with 1 mark. Without wasting more time, the boy starts to interview them on this special occasion. Shoei says he even lost his vision after he kept staring at the answer sheet. They then turn toward Rintaro, who simply says that he is very happy, making everyone emotional with his answer. Shoei shakes his shoulder violently, saying how hard they worked. Their classmates who couldn't pass the exams ask them to enjoy the sports day on their behalf. Everyone is shocked when even Natsuzawa gets teary-eyed, and even though he asks them not to embarrass him, Rintaro and Shoei still thank him for making this happen. At his weird reaction, Yurita comments that he is bad at showing emotions. As they start to bicker among themselves, Rintaro stares at his answer sheet, thinking about how he never felt this happy before. And it is all because of Waigiri-san. He takes out his phone, wanting to share the news with her, but just then he recalls Hoshina's words. Before he can decide on what he should do, Natsuzawa accidentally knocks over his desk. When he apologizes, Rintaro assures his friend that it is fine and asks if he is hurt. Saku doesn't reply to him as he stares at the good luck note in Rintaro's notebook and inquires about it.
Here I am.